Daddy eats lots. Daddy eats lots. Daddy eats lots. Munch, munch, munch.
Hello, welcome to Daddy Eats Last, where we discuss the challenges of being a man in modern society and whatever the hell that even means. I'm Kane, and joining me today to chat man stuff, as always, are Ryan and Maddie. Firstly, gents, how was the weekend?
Pretty full on, Kane. Good evening, Ryan. Good to talk to you. Ticked a lot of boxes this weekend. We got a lot of food prep done for school this week, for last week at school before the holidays kick in, so it's going to be pretty hectic. But yeah, in the process of, we've just rented a place while we renovate here, so we're moving stuff across to the new place for the next 6 months. So yeah, busy times up here.
Weren't you moving in with the in-laws?
We were, but we've decided it's probably best for everybody if we got our own place. We just thought it might be just a bit too squeezy at the in-laws with my wife's sister as well, so it's probably a bit more spacious to see our own way.
That is a very wise decision. I'm sure we'll have an episode in the near future or the somewhat distant future about in-laws, because that will just be a cracking episode. How was your weekend, Ryan?
Yeah, weekend was good. It was a bit cold and windy and miserable here, but had a nice long run today and went out for some brunch and yeah, just kind of chilled out, got some things done. Nothing too exciting there.
Yeah, we seem to have just a weekend where just things happen. We had a catch-up play date with the little fella this morning with some of the better halves friends, which was cool. I ate a lot of hot cross buns this weekend, despite it not quite being Easter yet. But I do love it when fruit bun season comes around. That does lead a little bit into what we were going to discuss tonight, which is around body image. And this is something Matthew put forward late in the week for us to discuss, body image. And, of course, being guys, we only get a sliver of this whole body image thing compared to everything I guess females have been through since day dot. And females certainly have, I guess I won't say bigger issues with body image, but it's certainly shoved down their throats much, much more than us as guys. But it is seemingly becoming more prevalent now that body image is something which men are really concerned with, Matthew.
Yeah, so I guess this sort of came out or crept into my mind earlier in the week where, you know, having 3 kids, it's quite difficult to sort of find the time to, you know, smash out a bit of exercise on a regular basis. So there are a couple of times a week where I try to, just with a friend from work, have a decent half an hour session. And I've missed a couple of those recently, you know, due to kids being sick or the weather just not being good enough. And it got me thinking that, you know, by missing even just a handful of these, you start to feel quite sluggish. January and February, I was, you know, doing this quite regularly. I was eating fantastically, you know, drinking loads of water, and I felt fantastic. I felt really, really good. Come March, with all, you know, sickness in the family and missing a couple of sessions like I just mentioned, I just feel I've gone downhill in terms of how I feel. I'm drinking a lot more soft drink than I should be, not as much water. And I'm just starting to notice it, not so much in body image, I guess, but the way I feel. And I guess it's going to result in probably body image. So I thought maybe, you know, there's a couple of dads on this program. I thought it'd be great to sort of, have a talk about, I guess, how hard it is for guys who have kids, to, you know, make the time or find the time to do this on a regular basis. And B, you know, are we feeling any external pressures to try and maintain a physique we might have had, you know, pre-kids, or, you know, is a dad bod, you know, okay to have? I mean, I had a look through some dad bod images, and I noticed there's quite a few celebrities out there who have them. You know, Leonardo DiCaprio, Pierce Brosnan, and like we said before, Kane, with ladies having some, you know, a lot of pressure to look and feel great. With the guys, when celebrities are sort of rocking the dad bod and, you know, in the news headlines, they sort of, you know, trivialise it a little bit by saying, you know, these guys have dad bods, it's okay. But on the flip side, I guess, women, there's nothing really, no one's really trivialising mum bodies, I guess, for mums to feel okay about, I guess, how they look. Does that sort of make sense?
Yeah, well, it's funny. Like, it's the dad bod thing. It was almost the dad bod thing wasn't a negative in the press, where you see on the front page of the Women's Day or Women's Weekly or any of those trashy magazines, it'll be, oh, such and such has got cellulite, like as a female. It's ridiculous, I guess, the disparity between the way it's reported if it's a female and a male at that celebrity level. But on a day-to-day basis, I think the important thing is that, especially going back to what you were saying before, Matthew, that you need to do things to feel good, maybe not to look good, and some things we just can't control, especially as we get older. Gravity's a bitch, but inevitable. Now, Ryan, you work in health sciences, so you might be better placed from a professional standpoint to add some commentary on this.
Yes. What would you like to know?
What's the definition of a dad bod?
I don't know what the definition of a dad bod is. I think the media has kind of given the definition of a dad bod. That if you got a little bit of a beer gut going or some spare tyre, that it's okay. And look, I think it's good from a healthy body image point of view. The reality is, from a health science point of view, as you get older, everything sort of does go downhill, unfortunately. So for most people, peak physical fitness is hit around the age of 26. If you're an endurance athlete, it is usually a bit later, so it can be into your 30s, and that's why we see some triathletes winning, well into their 30s. But yeah, really for most people, it's around that late 20s, and then basically once you tick into the 30s, the metabolism slows down quite a bit. You, from a bone density point of view, it's very highly recommended that you lift weights because from a bone density point of view, that starts to decrease decade on decade. So yeah, all these wonderful things start to happen, I suppose on the other side of mid-20s that even I'm now starting to find is quite annoying and painful. Everything gets really tight. That's the other thing with guys, in that they really don't look after their flexibility. So they get very poor postures, which can accentuate if they are carrying a little bit around the belly. But ultimately, the shitty thing is, as you get older, it just does become a bit harder.
It's harder to maintain as well. I had one specific person who's over 40 tell me that once you hit 40, it's extremely difficult to take weight off. So you're best to try to get what you can in before you turn 40 and then try to maintain that, because it's very hard to, I guess, ultimately change body shape post 40. It's a lot more hard work than when you're younger, and even then it's hard work.
Yeah, I mean, when you're younger, it's definitely... it is easier because your metabolism does respond to exercise a lot more. You can also just generally push your heart rate to a much higher level than what you do when you do age, and that does speed up things as well. And then once you add the time pressures of having kids or having a pretty solid career, I know myself that I have to train or get up quite early and make sure that I train quite a bit, but I had to stop playing higher level sports sort of around my early to mid 20s as sort of work really took off, which that in itself was a bit of a tough thing. But for guys, I mean, when you look at, say you're playing sports or you're doing all these things with your mates, or you're being really active, or even just going out quite a lot with your friends, and then you sort of hit that 30 mark and you might have a kid or work's really picking up, and all these external time demands kind of hit you that, yeah, you start trading games of soccer for a couple of drinks at the pub and watching soccer, and all those sort of things change. So it just compounds there. I think personally, even though I don't encourage a dad bod, I think what you said came about doing things to make yourself generally feel healthier versus the image. And I kind of, from a health point of view or working in health, I quite liked that the dad bod thing was a bit of a thing and a bit of a hit, because it did call out a bit of just normality, and that stuff is going to happen. But I don't like that it does almost give you a little bit of a it almost gives you a little bit of a get out of jail free card as well. So there's a dad bod when you're carrying, when you're just like, oh yeah, if I could really trim down those extra 3 to 5 kilos, and I'd probably get my abs back. Versus there's a really solid dad bod. So yeah, I think it's both good and bad, I guess.
I was going to say, Maddie, so how does it, obviously after a couple of weeks, how does it affect you, like that you think that you maybe have slipped or you're not maybe feeling as good as you were previously? Is it kind of then become a self-fulfilling prophecy that you just go into that sort of, that's, I don't know, like an eating and no exercise spiral, or do you try to take action, or how does it make you feel? Like how do you feel when you look in the mirror, mate?
Yeah, I tend to, after a good couple of weeks of, feeling good and exercising a lot, I can't seem to maintain it for whatever reason, whether, like I mentioned before, and then I do slip in this spiral of, a chocolate bar might slip in here, and, a soft drink slip in there. And then once that sort of happens, I spiral out of control. Not out of control, but pretty badly, at least to sort of take away and making bad food choices, I guess, when I'm hungry. And then, in a month or two, I'll get off my fat ass and get back into it again, and things will be okay. But I don't know, maybe I'm using outside influences as an excuse, and I should probably maybe, reassess how I approach things, and, try and find time where there is time, rather than maybe watching TV or, as soon as the kids go to bed, go and do something, rather than, do nothing, I guess. But yeah, I peak and trough very, very badly.
But does it matter? Does it matter? Like you're a good dad. You work, X hours. You balance X, Y, and Z. Does not exercising as much as you did previously, does it matter?
Probably not from an image point of view. I've sort of I've had a bit of a skinny body, mate, all my life, and no matter how many, times I've gone to the gym and stuff, I don't put on muscle quite easily. So from an image point of view, it probably doesn't matter, but there's something in my mind that just sort of ticks over if I haven't done something for quite a bit of time, and says, what's going on? You really need to get out there. And then I guess you start seeing yourself in the mirror, and, the spare tire's getting a little bit bigger than what it was, a month or two ago. And then I guess, sort of, not the demons start playing with your mind, but yeah, you become a lot more conscious of what's happening to your body. What about you, Kane, in terms of, you're approaching 40, you're doing this intermittent fasting thing. I know you're cycling to work. You get, a good amount of sleep. You don't really drink. Well, I've never really seen you drink soft drinks, to be honest. Nothing bourbon and Coke. So you really do look after your body. Are you, I don't know if you're, have any image issues, but are you, seeing any sort of bad bod things creeping into your physique, or you feel you're the same as what you were maybe 10 years ago?
Well, I found a white pubic hair the other day, so I'm clearly getting old. It's not really a dad bod as much, but maybe this is now an explicit episode, but that's the end of my life now that they've turned grey. But no, so far so good. I've avoided the man boobs and things like that. But the intermittent fasting is just to feel better. All the stuff that I do is mainly to feel better and try to be a bit more productive with my time. So try to maximise the energy that I have to be able to spend it on what I want. It's not really so much around, okay, trying to look like X or look like Y. It's more just to, I guess, feel better, to be honest. But yeah, that grey pube threw me.
Spiraled downhill.
All downhill from here, kids. All downhill from here.
But I mean, even with what Matt was saying, there is a big compounding factor, and it's actually really common to see a lot of people behave exactly the same way that you're describing there, Matt. They'll do some stuff there, and it's kind of a really good thing, because your body does tell you when it goes, look, enough is enough. So time to do a bit of movement. But with all of this stuff, these compounding factors, when you are doing things, and obviously it keeps keeps that routine and keeps going. But then when you go the other way, it can spiral pretty bad. But a couple of things, I suppose, from a more health side of things is that alcohol in regards to this, and it's why I pretty much have a dry month every year. Alcohol is a big contributor. So it's like when you look at the percentage of, bad foods that will contribute to the spare tire, you've got pure fat, that if you have too much of that, like saturated fat, the bad stuff, that's pretty bad. Alcohol follows that as a reasonably close second, and then you've got quite a bit down there. You've got carbs and protein. So, yeah, a lot of people find that if they do take some time off the alcohol, so if you're not doing as much exercise, you can kind of combat that a bit with your food and alcohol intake. And sleep's a massive one. So sleep is, if you sleep really well, sleep in itself can help lose weight, or at least repair tissue, which is what sleep is for. So, but what you're describing from a health point of view is actually extremely common behaviour that people go, yep, going well, something happens, off the wagon, back on again, going well. And normally one of the things that we say is, rather than looking at trying to smash out your exercise, actually just going back to some fundamentals of look at changing a little bit of your food, definitely look at your alcohol, and just look at getting a little bit more sleep and rest, and give yourself, because one of the other things is, if you're going hard for a couple of months, it's actually really good to schedule in a guilt-free week off, so that you kind of go, look, I know that I'm going to up and down a little bit, but my body also generally needs rest. So, once every 6 weeks, just have a week off and do that very guilt-free. And it's kind of much easier to get back on the bandwagon. But just on the health science thing, there is one absolute bitch when it comes to this. If you train for a week and the gains that you get in that week, if you train for 2 weeks, I should say, the gains that you get in that 2 weeks, if you have a week off, you lose. So it's a 2-to-1 ratio in the reverse way. So to explain that, so if you train for a month and you take 2 weeks off, you're back to where you were before that month happened. So it is a really painful situation with that, in that it takes half the amount of time to lose the gains that you do make if you have good habits.
Which, as soon as you have kids, you get sick and you're out of action for a week, so that undoes your 2 weeks of work that you've done beforehand. It's just one of those cycles. Do you have any advice for grey pubic hair, Ryan?
Definitely not. I don't even know that there's a men's diet for that one.
I didn't even know that it happened, to be honest. Obviously, it must. It makes sense, but I didn't know. It was still a shock.
I did, having worked way back in the aged care and the hospital space many years ago. I did know that every hair eventually will probably go grey, unfortunately.
So you don't learn this. You don't learn this at business school.
No, you definitely learn it in health school when they give you an aged care hospital rotation. But yeah, that's another story. Although I think I will genuinely be shattered when my hair goes grey, because I'll just break down. It
is inevitable, sadly. Now, Matthew, you're a father to 2 young girls and a little boy. Do you worry about body image and how they're going to grow up and how they're going to, I guess, view themselves?
Yeah, interesting you should say that. We have recently come across some situations where the term or the word fat has been used. So as soon as that's happened, we've made a choice to, tell the kids, or tell me after she's the one who's used it, that not to use that word. Purely because we just don't want her, at the 7-year-old, she really shouldn't be knowing, fat and skinny at that age anyway. But then with fat becomes a connotation that, it's bad. I mean, as an adult, maybe fat is bad, but from a, I guess, telling other kids or pointing out to other kids, someone's fat or something like that, we're sort of trying to make sure that she doesn't use that. So adults have been, using the word fat I guess, around her, like, you know, when someone's trying to lose a bit of weight or something like that. So we've tried to, stamp it out. But we are concerned about, you know, body image for the kids, because we want them to be able to, you know, go to school and feel, you know, good about who they are on the inside, not about the outside. So we'll promote that as long as we can. But I guess, you know, how saturated the media is with image, you know, all you have to do, I guess, like you said, Kane, is walk past the, you know, the end of the aisle at the supermarket and all the, you know, new ideas, Women's Days, it's all bikini photos on the front cover and, you know, how much people weight have lost, you know, and things like that. So it's too hard not to ignore, or it's too hard for the kids not to see eventually, but we'll do our best.
It's such a weird, I guess humanity's so weird, like so many different measures of success, and they always seem to be superficial, like, you know, skinny versus fat, and, you know, money versus something like, you know, maybe being poor, as opposed to just being goddamn happy is probably the most important thing, no matter what your size is. It seems crazy, but it's an interesting one you said before about watching what, I guess, people say around her and her picking up on things. It's a really important tip for people out there, especially people with kids or who are around kids, to watch what you're saying about others and also what you say about yourself.
Yeah, a lot of when I was previously working in the real that sports and fitness kind of space, a lot of stuff that we really did look at, obviously exercise and that, but using exercise for endorphin release and facilitating positive self-talk. Because having, you know, worked with even elite athletes and that kind of thing, but the pressures today that even they have, but I think men from 10 years ago, especially from 20, 30 years ago, there is just a genuine increase of pressure and expectations around looks. You know, how you look, how you present up to work, what you're wearing, how it fits, how physically active are you, like, do you look like you are, and therefore how strong, and all those kind of things. So I think, unfortunately, whilst exactly what you guys have said, women have had it for way too long, but yeah, there's been a massive increase in the, you know, I guess the men's clothing department and image and fitness and modeling and body and all that kind of thing. And positive self-talk or negative self-talk is hugely detrimental in that space. So what you're saying, especially if it's being relayed by kids, is something to really keep an eye on.
Yeah, and it's, especially for teachers out there as well have a really active role to play in this. I remember going to high school and, you know, a boy had a nickname of Beefy because he was a bit bigger than some of the other guys, and no teacher ever pulled us up on that. Like they're the sort of things which should be pulled up, and I guess you kind of nip that behaviour in the bud. So
yeah, generally I do think there's a lot more pressure, especially with the social media and all the image and all that kind of activity going on there. And ultimately, if more people could probably just cut themselves a little bit of a break and focus on, you know, trying to do healthier habits for more energy, you know, like what you're saying, Kane, the intermittent fasting thing absolutely will be having an effect on stabilizing your metabolism, that could be for another episode. I can go into a bunch of science on that there, but you're doing it primarily for well-being and your feeling, and if you do that, you'll compound your habits a lot easier. It's just one of the things to combat, I guess, ever-increasing pressure on what is becoming more of an image society in sort of every way, especially for men as well as obviously females.
Yeah, and I think the important part is no matter your gender, as long as you feel good and you feel happy, that is absolutely the most important thing. Certainly not what you look like, it's more about how you feel. Well, that wraps it up for this week. Do subscribe to Daddy Eats Last on iTunes, and while you're there, please leave a review. Tell all your mates about the podcast as well, especially if they are guys. Most of all, thanks for listening, and we'll be back next week for another episode, or maybe I won't say serving this week, of Daddy Eats Last. How's that for a dad joke? Catch you next week.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.